The first time I saw the campus it was incredible. There's volleyball nets and colorful umbrellas, and you see people walking their dogs. It feels kind of like a playground, a big playground.
Thousands of people with red badges, such as me, my team, and most other contractors, worked amongst thousands of people with white badges as full-time Googlers. Interns are given green badges. However, a fourth class exists at Google that involves strictly data entry labor, or more appropriately, the labor of digitizing. These workers are identifiable by their yellow badges, and they go by the team name ScanOps.
Password enter. Welcome to BRT Online.
U.S. internet companies. The highly classified program is codenamed PRISM.
The Guardian and the Washington Post both reported that the national security...
On the other side of the country, in Silicon Valley, there was anger and confusion over just what kind of access major internet companies were giving the NSA.
Extracting audio, video, photographs, and email.
There was shock and disbelief and horror. A lot of people I know, Silicon Valley type people, just felt, it can't be right. It's not possible. Google, Facebook, these guys are collaborating. It's just not what they would do.
CEOs of internet companies like Facebook and Google deny.
The companies scrambled to respond to the news.
Google denies that they have direct access. Who's right?
My name is Matthew Malone. I'm a graduate intern here at Google in consumer operations this summer. I have a background as an infantry officer in the Army. I thought leading people directly on the ground as a combat leader would provide the greatest leadership challenge. And then I switched over to working in intelligence. That's where I really started to fall in love with technology.
They scan books, page by page, for Google Book Search. The workers wearing yellow badges are not allowed any of the privileges that I was allowed. Ride the Google bikes, take the Google luxury limo shuttles home, eat free gourmet Google meals, attend authors at Google Talks, and receive free signed copies of the author's books, or set foot anywhere else on campus except for the building they work in. They also are not given backpacks, mobile devices, thumb drives, or any chance for social interaction with any other Google employees.
Global Net selected. Beijing selected.
When you go to a website, the website has the opportunity to drop a little file onto your computer called a cookie. It's basically a tracking number. It's just an ID number attached to you. And anytime you go to another website that sees that ID number, they know, oh, it's that same person.
So a cookie is a unique identifier set by any website that your computer interacts with. And to be clear, it doesn't have to be the website that you're visiting. You visit any given site and your computer will interact with dozens, if not hundreds of servers run by different companies.
Today, all the big internet companies use advanced tracking technology. And the NSA has carefully studied their methods. For them, commercial tracking is an opportunity.
Take care of our customers with an ironclad
pain reliever, FDA approved.
breath or mouth infection.
The NSA sees all this data that's flowing to these advertisers.
Costs much less.
And they're thinking, look at all this data about people's behavior that's just flying out there to hundreds of different parties and oftentimes not encrypted. And so they can just snatch it.
I have you living life like you should. You say you never had it so good.
So it begins. Here we go. The place is incredible.
Where do we check in?
Let's ask somebody here. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me. Do you...
Really?
It's scary because it's new.
I decided if I were to represent these workers leaving the factory, it would be important to develop a relationship with the film's subjects and welcome their perspective into the video. A week later, I approached a few of them to see if they would be willing to have a conversation in the near future about their jobs. The first girl mostly ignored me and started talking to someone on her cell phone.
Access denied.
This slide indicated the use of a specific Google cookie. It's called a pref cookie that's set by Google. Even if you've never been on google.com, in fact, when you turned on your computer and opened the browser, you were likely to get one of these cookies.
And we found out that the NSA was piggybacking on that. I mean, of course, if you're an NSA collections manager and you want to know, how do I figure out, where Bart was or whether he's changed devices or all this other kind of information about him, why don't I just go and get that information that conveniently has been collected for me by Silicon Valley companies who do it for their own commercial motives?
Because Google's using a tracking cookie, the NSA can sit back and see all that stuff go by. They can monitor all of that activity, all those cookies, and use it in order to track your browsing activity or inject malware into your computer. And if they sent you malware, it would take over your computer and essentially let them access all your data, all your keystrokes, all your passwords, etc.
I guess I've always identified myself very much with the military. I was in the military for 5 years, but I'm starting to see myself as a Googler. I see myself as someone who fits in here. I don't feel like an outsider. I feel googly.
Two other young men said they'd be happy to talk about their work and accepted business cards with my email address. Another young man I approached was also willing to discuss his work. About the job, he briefly said that it's not what I want to be doing, but it pays the bills.
Access granted. Hotel Beijing selected. General account selected.
These NSA folks are saying it's the...
They saw here a big threat to their image, to their business model, which relies on people to trust them with their communications. And Google pushed back very hard. They said, you should not be associating our commercial ad cookie technology with US government surveillance. And Ashkan said, we can prove it. We can prove that they're using this, that the NSA is piggybacking on your technology.
And I had their own material indicating how it's used to track people and how it's an identifier. So we were going back and forth, and the Google person was insisting that this is not a tracking cookie. And I said, look, here's some links. This is your own video on YouTube that you made in 2007 about this cookie and how it's an identifier.
Cookies remind us of your preferences from the last time you visited.
I'm Grant Oakley. I'm from Spokane, Washington. Just the process of coding is actually surprisingly fun. You kind of get like this epic win at the end of the day. You got, throw up the arms in celebration.
Before I could give him my card, a very agitated, chubby white male with a red badge wedged himself between us and demanded that I show him my badge and tell him who my manager was. He told me the yellow-badged workers were extremely confidential people doing extremely confidential work, and I was standing in an extremely confidential area.
I would say meeting Sergey was definitely one of the highlights in my week, month, maybe year. He's fine, just like stop and shake my hand. Then he rode off on his elliptical bike. It's pretty great.
He then reprimanded the yellow-badged worker for talking to me. I then found out the chubby white man knew what I was doing because the first girl I had spoken to followed the instructions in the back of her yellow badge, which is to call a certain manager if anyone asks about the work of the yellow badge class.
This is the dessert area. Yummy cake. And just in case you forgot where you work, they got the big Google signs everywhere. For dessert, it's real famous in the Bay Area to have the It's It But these guys have had theirs without trans fats and with using real sugar instead of corn syrup, I guess. Made just for Google, specially formulated. Those are the cranberry chocolate chip nut cookies, and those are good. The ginger cookies were pretty good. Yeah, there's the fancy special Google It's It. It's a San Francisco tradition, by the way, in case you didn't know. There's a sign on the highway you can see. These are the ingredients where I'm trying to point to how they have formulated these specially for the delicate constitutions of the Googlers. This is actually, I'm making fun, but actually it's pretty damn good.
Well, what do you think about when you're alone?
I think I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need a computer.
No, in all seriousness, this position that you just saw me in, looking down my phone, it's one of the reasons behind this project, Project Glass, because we ultimately question whether this is, the ultimate future of how you want to connect to other people in your life, how do you want to connect to information. Should it be by just walking around, looking down? I can see many of you doing that right now because this talk is too boring. I'm sorry, but that was the vision behind Glass, and that's why we've created this form factor.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay, and
Access denied.
Get out of here.
I don't want to go through all the things it does and whatnot. It's privileged to be here on the TED stage. But I want to tell you a little bit more about the motivation behind what led to it. Now, the other thing is, in addition to potentially socially isolating yourself when you're out and about looking at your phone, I feel it's kind of emasculating. Does anybody else feel that way?
Every weekday morning between 7:30 and 10, dozens of big, sleek buses roll down Valencia Street in the heart of San Francisco's traditionally Latino Mission District and other city thoroughfares. Using bus stops created for city buses, the private coaches pick up a cargo of workers who for the most part have moved into the city and work 30 or 40 miles south of it at places like Google, Facebook, Apple, eBay, and Yahoo. The free buses, generally referred to as Google buses, are one of the perks for high-tech workers in high demand in Silicon Valley. And she adds the influx of techies is gentrifying the city.
Joe Google moves into the apartment from which Jose Auto Mechanic has been evicted. Jose Auto Mechanic is now going to move to Vallejo and have a hellacious commute to the auto body shop in San Francisco, and no luxury bus with tinted windows and Wi-Fi on board is going to pull up at his new home in Vallejo to bring him to his office. So what you're really doing is displacing the more vulnerable people.
On Fashion Week, we revealed Google Glass to the world.
It was one of the first time really fashion and technology met and collided at the same time.
So when I was actually able to design with the Google Glass, I was so happy. And I love aviator shape, so I went for the aviator, and then I went for the shield, which I love.
And now we get to collaborate and create something really for women. Before we had a couple of frames, but it was designed to be unisex.
I remember you told me that it was a big, huge thing.
I describe it as a scuba mask with a phone attached to it and cable running down to a backpack.
And how long did it take you to transform it into this?
I think the main transformation part happened over the course of 1.5 years. This is what I'm striving to do every day, not to incrementally improve something that already exists, but to really push myself and the team to create things that are new, that deserve to exist.
Well, I'm so happy. I can't wait to meet again.
For some companies in Silicon Valley, the furor over the buses and their symbolism of the divide between rich and poor have become an embarrassment of sorts as they pull up to stops near the high-tech campuses and discharge their computer-carrying cargo of San Francisco residents.
Can we talk about this online, on the line thing, please?
We're going to follow up more on what we're doing.
I've realized in experimenting with this device that I also kind of have a nervous tick, you know. I mean, the cell phone is, yeah, it's kind of, you have to look down on it and all that, but it's also kind of a nervous habit. Like, you know, if I smoked, I'd probably just smoke instead. I would just light up a cigarette. It would look cooler, you know, I'd be like, but in this case, you know, I whip this out and I, you know, sit there and look as if I have something very important to do or to attend to.
Fax buffer selected.
You know, with this, you know, kind of takes away that excuse, at least in my mind. You know, I recognized, oh, I'm just, whatever, I need a break from the world, or for whatever reason, you know, you're going into, you know, you need a break, you need something else to think about or something.
Families do live here because it is one of the most affordable places in the city. And people don't realize how high the housing is in San Francisco. And so if you can find a studio or one bedroom here now for $1,200, that's pretty affordable compared to other places.
But now a new wave of tech enterprises are moving into the city and nearby Silicon Valley, bringing with them well-paid workers who can afford to live in newer and more upscale digs and patronize pricey bars and restaurants. Twitter, with 2,000 employees, recently opened its new headquarters just across the street from the Tenderloin, and that has brought in a few new businesses and put pressure on the city to clean up the area.
No way. Hi.
Is that your dance teacher from back at Google? Go talk to her.
Yeah, for shizzle, you know, I just go up and I'm like,
I want room service! I want the club sandwich. I want the cold Mexican beer. I want a $10,000 a night hooker!
Hi.
Okay, good.
Hi.
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 Hi. You were really good up there. I mean, that was amazing. Not in like a sexual way. Kind of in a sexual way. It was. You're very talented. Everything you do is special, is what I'm saying.
I'm so embarrassed.
What? No, you're embarrassed? Are you kidding? Now we're even, because dancing in your class at Google was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I don't remember anything specifically awful.
Some part of them really want to, like, taste that other side of life. That kind of darker side, wilder, more exotic side of life. On the night of November 22nd, 2013, Forrest Hayes was on his yacht, and he didn't come home that night. And his wife became concerned, and she called the captain they retained for this yacht. And he went and he got on the boat, and there's Forrest Hayes lying there dead.
Can you get out from the bus? I want to talk to you outside the bus because I have my passengers on there. I don't want to.
These stops are actually really affecting the neighborhoods.
I understand, but can you get out, please?
The $1 billion will go to affordable housing.
I want to listen to you, but outside the bus. Talk to me outside the bus, please.
Public transit services.
Do you want me to listen to you?
I would like you all to.
Okay, then
Because
get
this
out.
is an illegal use of this bus stop.
I want to talk to you outside the bus, please.
Please don't take that from her.
Sorry? Excuse me.
There's a survey on the back for all of you.
You can't get, excuse me, on the bus, please. You can't get on the bus.
What do you suggest we do about it?
Ma'am, please, I don't want you to get on the bus. It's a private bus. Let me talk to you outside, okay?
Can I give you the new ordinance? Ordinance 13259?
No, I'd rather not that you're invading the bus. It can be useful later.
Okay.
Get out of here!
He went to California for Sun Microsystems, and he went on to Apple, and then he went on to Google.
For a high-paying job at their top-secret location, where impossible dreams are transformed into reality.
He was hired to work in Google X, which they call their moonshot factory. You know, the most extreme, wildest, imaginative, farthest-reaching ideas they could have, you know, like Google glasses, self-driving cars. He was the guy who was actually going to make some of these things happen.
If you guys would just move out of the way.
How long have you been here?
Look, I've been here for 6 months, okay? Hey, look, I live around the corner, and I don't need to tell you anything, okay?
How much is your rent?
Look, I can pay my rent. Can you pay your rent?
I can't pay my
Can you pay your rent? Well, then you know what? Why don't you go to a city where you can afford it? You know, because this is a city for the right people who can afford it. If you can't afford it, it's time for you to leave.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear me. I just wanted to ask you. So you were saying you thought that there were buildings nearby that were linked to Google. Was part of how you figured it out?
Exactly. I had gotten sort of a tip online that Google was renting this building on Treasure Island in the San Francisco Bay, and when I started digging into it, I found all these clues, such as I went to the building and I asked for Google, and I was told to go down to a door a little bit to the right. I asked people on the island, and people had definitely heard that Google was out there. And somebody told me that people were paying for lunch in a local cafe with Google credit cards.
San Francisco, no se vende! San Francisco,
No se vende! No se vende!
San Francisco,
No se vende!
San Francisco,
No se vende!
San Francisco,
No se vende!
San Francisco. How would it be on the street if you weren't trying to press your
Right now with YouTube and iTunes and all of this technology, man, makes artists lazy. You don't got to work this hard. We used to have to work hard. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have Pro Tools when I started rapping, and Pro Tools is the industry standard now. So it's like, when I need to do 3 choruses on the song, I had to do 3 choruses on the song. I wasn't able to fly a hook.
That's that you reel to reel.
Yeah. General, can you scare me? Yes. Well, I mean, what I always be laughing about, always looking up like, all they did was just make Antioch a war zone. You know what I mean? They took all of us out of, San Francisco, Fillmore, Hunters Point, some they did Lakeview, mostly Fillmore. Richmond, everywhere. They moved them all out to the suburbs, and now they got war zones going out there. Some people, like I was born and raised out here. You know what I mean? From a kid all the way up to 31 years old, and we don't have that no more. I look around and I'll be like, I don't see nobody out there. On one end, a lot of them that died off and stuff, so our generation going crazy. But on the other end, they've been shipped out too. So I definitely don't agree with it. I understand the redevelopment or whatever that they're trying to do. I understand the beautifying or whatever they call it, but we gotta make this housing affordable to keep San Francisco here, keep that culture, keep that richness. You know what I mean? The community don't got that same feeling as you can see. We only got about like 100 people in. Do this shit 10 years ago, this would have been packed. You know what I mean? This would have been packed. But they gone. They can't. Some of them can't make it all the way from Antioch. You know what I mean? Some of them can't make it all the way from Hayward or wherever they've been moved off to. You know what I mean? Pittsburgh, Concord. You know what I mean? They can't make it out. So we lost the community.
In the middle of our interview, we were interrupted by one resident, a man who calls himself Dirty Red.
Why do you live in the Tenderloin?
Why do I live in the Tenderloin? Yeah. Because we're flushed into the areas. This is where we have to survive, get the best that we can.
Meanwhile, San Francisco is changing rapidly. Other older, modest neighborhoods have been gentrifying, with the poor residents moving out as prices rise. So far, that hasn't happened to the Tenderloin, which raises a thorny question that compassionate but upscale San Francisco must answer. How do you clean up a drug-infested, crime-ridden area without displacing the unfortunate population that lives there?
perfect hour for an eviction. A clear, stern decision handed down on a quiet avenue where the Google bus purrs cat-like, contented, picking up young crusaders with matching backpacks, newly armed. The girls hardly notice as the buses pull out for a green campus to the south. Eviction. An elder, a family, single mother, house full of orderlies, the clerk who hands out change at the local markets.
Erin McElroy organizes for the San Francisco Tenants Union, which put together this rally to halt evictions, which she claims have increased 175% in the last year.
The real issue is gentrification and the systemic displacement of longtime residents in San Francisco, and what's happening is that people are being displaced by a particular political economy that's benefiting from the money that tech is bringing into the city.
Google declined to comment on the bus controversy and what it may represent, and said that it had discouraged its employees from talking to the media. The company did issue several statements, including one that said it certainly didn't want to inconvenience San Francisco Bay Area residents.
Been seeing a lot of changes around here, especially on Valencia Street, and I feel like this is just like the perfect representation of change. Like, you got Dia de los Muertos, street art, and then when you're looking up, you got luxury restaurant, and right above it, brand new luxury condos.
As if in answer to all the criticism, in late February, Google announced it was donating $6.8 million over 2 years to provide free rides for low-income youth on San Francisco city buses.
Capitalism has reconfigured itself, especially here in the Bay Area. It is a very exclusive type of capitalism, one that employs a very small number of people and people that can only do specialized jobs.
And when we kicked off the project, the question was, is this even possible? Could you actually have cars that drive themselves out on the road? And so we set for ourselves two audacious goals. One was to drive 100,000 miles on public roads. To put that in perspective, this is an order of magnitude more than anyone had ever driven before.
The wealthy Google executive found the exotic beauty in a somewhat secret world, where real names are rarely used.
Technically, Alex Tickleman and Forrest Hayes met here in Las Vegas, not at an upscale casino or a fancy hotel lobby bar, but rather through an online website.
That was my bedroom window. This corner is completely different though. This used to be a Latino bakery called Mi Rancho, where everyone in the neighborhood used to come, and now it's luxury condos as well and a luxury salon, that's just the way it is, I guess.
When self-driving cars are a reality, it's going to be amazing, right? Imagine never losing someone to a traffic accident again. Imagine a world where you get in your car, it takes you where you want to go, and then you get out, and you don't have to search for parking. You just, leave it, and it goes off and helps someone else get where they're going.
What year did you start seeking arrangement?
It was started in 2006 from a bedroom in San Francisco, actually.
It may have the look and feel of a startup, but with nearly 4 million members worldwide, this is big business. What is Seeking Arrangement?
SeekingArrangement.com is a sugar daddy dating website. So we match wealthy guys and girls looking to pamper and spoil, and of course younger men and women looking to meet those wealthy people.
20th and Mission, not a lot has changed. It's beautiful because a lot of it hasn't changed. And I feel like looking around, so there's certain moments when I walk around, I'm just like, this is my neighborhood. I have no idea what that is. No idea what that
Whenever you start building barges in people's harbors, it starts to make people understandably nervous that there's something strange going on in their backyard. I mean, I really, it feels almost sweaty in a sense that, you know, they're so desperate to have someone pay attention to what's happening in Google Glass, because there is this whiff about Google Glass of geek product, you know, that there really isn't a broad consumer interest in this thing outside of, you know, Robert Scoble and however many people he's connected to on Facebook. And so the problem for them is that, you know, how do you get beyond that kind of echo chamber of Silicon Valley and get real people, normals, as Ohm called them in the earlier segment, to actually know and care about a product that, from their standpoint, seems duplicative of a lot of things their cell phone does and, quite honestly, makes them look funny. There's a great line from the making of, I think it was Apocalypse Now, when they asked Francis Ford Coppola, you know, what went wrong when they were doing it. And he said, well, we had too much money, and we spent too much time in the jungle, and we slowly went mad. And there's a little bit of a whiff of that around what's happening here.
People forget the community is only relevant because of people. So when you're displacing all the people in the community, it's like, where does that culture go? Where does that community go? Yeah.
They were protesting the fact that a Google employee had bought an apartment complex here in the Mission area and ultimately ended up evicting about 6 tenants, 2 of which were school teachers here in the area.
What is budget? That's what he's willing to spend?
That's his sort of lifestyle. So it could be going out for dinners, paying for that, going on trips.
Okay, so does a woman think you're going to spend $3,000 on me? A sugar baby thinks you're going to spend
on the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wade is proud that his membership ranks include employees of leading Fortune 500 companies, including, he says, from Google.
Was Forrest Hayes a typical client of yours?
I would say he is an average client of ours.
So what's behind all the animosity, do you think? Why is this coming up in this way?
I think there's been an issue around corporate leaders in this country being like celebrities in some way. There's a lot of attention on them. The internet age has put them front and center. And the big issue has been their compensation and the difference between what they make and their rank and file worker. If you look today, the typical CEO makes 354 times more than the typical worker in his or her company, mostly his because there are so few women.
Can you tell us anything about Alex Tickleman's profile on Seeking Arrangement?
Well, the only thing I can say is that it looked like any other normal profile, so it was approved, and there was no indication that she was soliciting money for sex, at least not with that profile.
After Hayes' death, investigators began tracking Alex Tickleman on social media. Fearing she might leave town, they hatched a plan to catch her, using seekingarrangement.com.
Venture capitalist Tom Perkins likened the protests against Google and its employees to Nazi Germany and its Crystal Night program. He says it's a rising tide of hatred against the successful 1%. He seems to believe that the next step is sending Google employees to death camps. What's your response to that?
I mean, it was particularly ridiculous what Perkins said. But actually, my colleague Alex Perrine wrote a piece today that highlights how Perkins's comments aren't actually that unique for the kind of paranoid 1%, the plutocrats who genuinely think that any popularism that maybe has some sort of symbolic or active display of resentment for gross inequality is in fact persecuting them. It's a paranoia, it's a lunacy, and it's terribly worrying that these people are the people that have the ear of Capitol Hill and policymakers, not America's general population. So I think Perkins's view is patently insane, but reflective of a 1% paranoia that is also not new.
Why did you
look, these are the problems. I was struck by the horrific situation that most people are in the world in terms of governance, the horrific way in which women are treated, the corruption at every level of government. The majority of people, humans like us, don't have any of the benefits of any person here in the room.
And you've said that you support counterforce because Google should, quote, no longer get away with playing the good guy. What did you mean by that?
Well, I feel, especially in the past few months, Google has been on a quite explicit PR campaign to almost exempt itself from the role it's played in upholding and maintaining a surveillance state.
Well, I think the piss factor is apparently not quite high enough, with all due respect to the sort of people who've been screaming and yelling at buses. Is not high enough. I mean, no one's been guillotined that I know of in probably 150 years.
I don't understand, right? If you're a service person for somebody that has money, in some ways, they're providing a job for you. You should, I'm sorry, but I would be grateful if I had a job. Like, I have done waitressing before, and I have worked in service industries, and I'm grateful for the jobs that I have.
At a recent protest, one of the group's flyers read, quote, all of Google's employees should be prevented from getting to work. All surveillance infrastructure should be destroyed. No luxury condos should be built. No one should be displaced.
OMG. So you'll never believe this, but I got verbally and physically assaulted and robbed last night in the city. Had things thrown at me because of some Google Glass haters.
Video. Okay. It's on video now. Okay.
It happened here at Molotov's Bar in the famed Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. Sarah Slocum claims she was verbally accosted by other patrons here, not for anything she did or said, but for what she was wearing, Google Glass.
I'm watching you. What the hell are you wearing?
I walked into the bar and I started experiencing animosity and hatred.
Why didn't you just take the glasses off and say, no problem?
But you were called out by some journalists for your support of counterforce, who say that you're actually advocating violence. What's your response?
Essentially, this isn't a new argument. This happened during Occupy. It happened in the 90s. I think it's an interesting time we live in when militant radical violence is the same as handing out flyers and maybe breaking a window. And I feel like that's a worrying state of affairs when this is not particularly extreme. But I'm certainly not going to tell counterforce that what they're doing might not be an interesting escalation in tactics.
Now, the face of the opposition is a group called the Counterforce. It's an anarchist organization that this past weekend took the fight to the doorstep of a guy named Kevin Rose, an entrepreneur turned venture capitalist who's now a partner at Google Ventures.
TechCrunch had an article about it, but I saw it first on Instagram. Parasite! Happy face. Already I'm starting to think this guy's nuts, whoever put this
What's
up.
with the happy face?
This was how big is this banner?
That's just the handouts. That was just a little leaflet they were handing out to.
But there was also a big banner, right?
Yeah, they brought like a 10-foot banner that it took a few of them to hold it
in
up.
front of your house.
Yeah, in front of the house, and they were chanting like Kevin Rose is a douche, Kevin Rose parasite.
Oh my God, Kevin!
Stuff.
This makes me
was
so sad.
Was that a lot of people, or was it just?
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
how about that one? I'm a snip your balls. What is wrong with these people? Oh my God!
But what does the Counterforce really want? Well, they want Google. This is what they ask of Google. They're saying, we demand that Google give $3 billion to an anarchist organization of our choosing. This money will then be used to create autonomous, anti-capitalist, and anti-racist communities throughout the Bay Area and Northern California. If you are confident that your system is the best, it would be wise to give us $3 billion to see if we fail.
That sounds almost like a threat, Gabriel.
We are the ones who serve them coffees, deliver them food, suck their cock. Really?
I never.
We've talked about Alibaba, we've talked about Amazon, we've talked about
But
Apple,
hold on,
of
wait.
course.
Do you think that's hurt humanity?
I think it's a huge benefit.
Wait, you're asking Eric Schmidt?
No, I know.
But it's second when he says it.
But I actually have a strong opinion on this. I think empowering individuals is the best way to deal with the strategic issues that we face as a society, as a country, as a globe. Right? Empowered people are smart. Human nature is good. Give them the tools and let them run.
Does your mom think that?
Yes.
It's a fair question because many people think some level of humanity has been lost.
I want everyone to know what people freed is capable of doing to our city. What money buys and destroys. Our city is not for sale.
Billy, you started wrecking everything that was good about our home.
What's actually important is just growing a kind of sense of, being a force, a threat, making people's presence known, making their anger known, and then we'll see what happens next.
This picture shows Business Insider reporter Kyle Russell wearing Google Glass a few hours before he says they were ripped off his face by a woman who afterwards smashed them to the ground.
The way the person said glass when they pulled it from my face, and also the flourish with which they destroyed glass, made me suspect that it was about the device itself, not so much about getting it to sell it. It was more of a, I want to destroy this thing.
He says it happened shortly after turning this corner on Valencia to 16th Street. Earlier, he and his editor had been covering this protest against a Google executive who is in the process of evicting his tenants, and so he's not sure he'll be buying another pair.
I've gotten a lot of reactions saying that I deserve it for putting on this device that gives off the appearance that I'm trying to flaunt my techiness somehow.
Remember the Google barge that was floating in our bay? It was a big mystery. It turned out to be a floating showroom of some type, but it never opened. One day it mysteriously took off and parked at a port in Stockton.
It was going to be a Google Glass showroom, but tonight it's nothing more than a high-profile failure. The Google barge, a water mystery at first. Now,
no changes.
I haven't seen anybody go in and out of it.
Just there.
Some of the guys actually have been intrigued and they're hitting golf balls at it.
And therefore move laterally. In fact, we're using this tool to make the system in Google Apps more efficient, and you can expect a significant battery improvement in that. We've also added a new job scheduler API to help you optimize power consumption in your apps. So using the job scheduler API, you can make your application more efficient by allowing the platform to coalesce non-urgent network requests from multiple apps. As a result, the platform can keep the radio asleep a higher percentage of the time, thus saving significant power.
And it's been battle tested to run at 1.3 million queries per second. And at the beginning, all right. At the beginning of each application is a developer who wants to get their idea out to the market as quickly as possible.
If you want to play pickup, you play pickup like the rest of us. It's not you can book the field. You can book the field. Just because you got money and you can pay for the field, you don't get to book for an hour to take over these kids' fucking like play. It's bullshit. No, it's bullshit.
Our friend posted it. He's not here
yet. Yo, you don't understand. You don't understand. It's not about booking the field.
It doesn't matter.
This field has never been booked. Okay. You don't understand. So this field has never been booked. The last 3 years. How long have you been in the neighborhood, bro? How long have you been in the neighborhood?
Give a shit who.
Over a year.
One time you let other people play.
We will share with you. Why don't you get a team and we play pickup 7v7 like it always is. And wait your turn.
Oh, you fucking
We got till 10.
Are you recording an argument right now? Yeah. Cool. Why?
Is there a problem? Like, for real? Is there a problem?
Yeah.
I don't camera. No. I think there's no problem with recording. No problem. No problem. No problem. Cops don't care.
Yeah. We paid $27 to serve fuel for now. We paid $27 to read it, man. I know how to read. Okay. I'm an educated person.
People don't care about this. You do.
What do you mean, man?
I don't need you to say
It's awkward and weird.
There's
Like we're part of the community and we're trying to play. But you're being really weird, man.
How am I being weird?
And disastrously weird.
What are you talking about, dude?
The best uses of glass today are apps where it acts as an interface between you and the real world. For instance...
Do you guys hear yourself when you talk? An interface between you and the real world. Those are called eyes.
At first, I truly enjoyed the ease of use.
Okay, Google Glass, find me the best espresso.
I do think that this is really Berkeley.
Billionaire investor Peter Thiel chased off stage by angry protesters at UC Berkeley. A bunch of angry protesters stormed through the doors during a speech by Peter Thiel on Wednesday, that's last night, at UC Berkeley, ultimately shutting down the lecture halfway through the evening's event. After 20 minutes, protesters came banging on the doors, interrupting the speeches multiple times. A sense of panic seemed to overtake the surprised audience, but Thiel went on and continued through the Q&A.
And yet, you attended Stanford, you received the BS, law degree there, and you seem to have ended up okay.
Moments later, the doors finally gave in and protesters took over the stage. Protesters held signs of Ferguson, Black Lives Matter, and shouted, "The NSA's gotta go." The crowd booed the protesters and shouted, "Peter Thiel matters." By then, Thiel was gone. Protesters in Berkeley, California, nearby Oakland, have been going on since November 24th, after the grand jury and Michael Brown, blah, 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 blah. Here are the protesters, and I would just like to show Pat and Stu exactly what the protesters are holding there on the stage. Notice anything? Just a red flag. But other than the red flag, don't worry about anything.
Burn down to it, it fucking burns. Take it back!